Japanese woman living in Germany. Have you ever struggled with something for a long time? This is the story of how I overcame my past trauma. If you are watching my videos, you already know that my father's work led us to Germany when I was 8. I had a wonderful childhood in a quiet neighborhood in Germany. Initially, arriving from Japan and not speaking German or English, I needed to go through lots of culture shocks. While my German neighbors, a mix of elderly residents and families, were welcoming, our communication was limited. Most of our neighbors were still being nice to this new Japanese family, but there was no real connection formed until this happened. Our next-door neighbors moved out, and a German family with 3 children moved in. The oldest was a teenager, but the other 2 were only a few years older or younger than me. We quickly became friends, climbing trees, playing with Barbies, and attending each other's birthday parties. I remember spending almost every day with them. I attended Japanese elementary school while they went to German school, which ended much earlier. They were always waiting for me and rang the bell as soon as I got back home. My mom only allowed me to play after finishing my homework, so I rushed to complete it. They didn't seem to understand why I had so much homework every day, though. Spending time together is one of my best childhood memories. It's still surprising how we communicated despite the language barrier, relying on basic German vocabulary, and that was probably enough as a child. It's amazing how totally different people understand each other, and I think the mindset has influenced a lot in my life. Some years passed, and it suddenly happened. The family's parents suddenly got divorced, and they decided to move to Hamburg. As a child, I could not understand at all because they seemed so happy. The process went pretty fast, and they moved away from the house. I was feeling sad, and without them, places looked so empty. But we kept in touch through letters since the internet wasn't common back then. Now you probably think this is about my trauma, but fortunately, no, just sadness at their leaving. Other years passed, and my dad's job required us to move back to Japan. Unfortunately, we lost contact with them during our move out. As I got a totally different life in Japan, my life became busy with reverse culture shock, and I eventually started to forget about them. It is sad, but life goes on. More than a decade later, when I decided to return to Germany, I suddenly remembered them again. For the reason why I came back to Germany, please watch my other video, Why I Came to Germany. Anyway, I remembered my first German friends in Germany, but I had no way to contact them. They may have even changed their last name due to a divorce since we last wrote. I tried searching for their maiden name on Facebook, but the results were overwhelming, and I didn't even know what they looked like now. I messaged more than 20 people of similar age who resembled them, hoping to find the persons. I sent the message as follows. Hello, my name is Frau Samurai from Japan. I am looking for a girl named Mia. I used to live in Germany when I was a child, and I had amazing neighbors whose names were Mia, Felix, and Paul. If I am sending this message to the wrong person, I am very sorry, but I really hope you are the girl I am looking for. Guess what happened? I got one reply back from one of the girls saying, I am the neighbor. We played with Barbies. I still remember how excited I was and immediately talked to my parents. They were also surprised and seemed as excited as I. When I think back, it looked like spam mail. But I was trying so hard to find her and the family. Finding her through technology felt like a miracle. Once we reconnected, we talked about our families and sending each other pictures as we both don't know how we grew up. She mentioned her older brother, Felix, actually had searched for me on Facebook a few years ago, but gave up due to the common name. He had even spent 3 months in Japan. Hearing this, I found it a curious twist of fate. We could have met then. Remarkably, 2 families thought of each other enough to attempt visits to each other's countries. The impact of childhood experience is enormous. So, where is the trauma story? It's starting from here. When I decided to go back to Germany, I booked a flight to Frankfurt. She lived in Wiesbaden, generously offered to pick me up and host me, which I gratefully accepted. I boarded the plane, filled with excitement about seeing her after over a decade and starting my new chapter back in my second home. Meeting her made me incredibly nervous, and I imagined dramatic scenarios like in a Hollywood movie. During my flight, I was so hungry and I ate a slice of dried pizza as a served snack. And it was a really bad decision. After eating this pizza, I started to feel intensely sick. Despite numerous long flights, I'd never felt so ill. I spent the remaining 11 hours desperately trying not to throw up. I also couldn't sleep because of it. When the airplane finally landed, I felt like I had finally made it, but I couldn't move from there at all. After everyone deplaned, I desperately asked a flight attendant if I could stay seated for 5 more minutes, a request I knew was unreasonable, but it was an urgent situation. Of course, the favor was not accepted, and I sluggishly gathered my belongings and shuffled towards the exit. As soon as I stepped off the plane, I vomited uncontrollably and collapsed. Some minutes later, I heard footsteps that someone was coming closer to me. That was a pilot. He was surprised to see what was happening there and immediately called an emergency service. After what felt like 20 minutes, they arrived with a wheelchair and transported me to a medical support office. My brain was pretty much panicking. My friend was at the airport to pick me up, and she must be wondering why I hadn't shown up. And wait, I hadn't even gotten my suitcases. What if I couldn't collect my suitcases anymore? All my plans were ruined and I felt terrible. I couldn't contact her because my Japanese phone's SIM card only worked in Japan. I am not sure why I didn't get the idea of using Wi-Fi, but I think there was probably a reason at the time. I explained the situation to the nurse and told him my friend is waiting for me. Luckily, I had her number written down, and the nurse contacted her to pick me up from the place where I was. Shortly after, a tall blonde girl entered the room. That was my friend. I expected a dramatic reunion, but it was more like her worries came first. We hugged, a far cry from my imagined scenario, but we finally managed to meet. She was much shorter than I was back then, but now she has grown up a bit taller than me. Afterward, pizza became associated with trauma. Its sight or smell triggers physical rejection, as it reminds me of ruining my new chapter and bad luck in my memory. After several failed attempts to eat pizza over the years, I decided to travel to Puglia, Italy. This region is especially famous for the good quality of Italian food. Even Italian people travel there to experience their special food. I was hoping to overcome my trauma with authentic, fresh pizza. I know I didn't need to force myself to do so, but I wanted to be able to eat this popular dish in my life again, and I wanted to expand my food options. Despite my nervousness, the pizza at the famous restaurant was incredible, and I finished the entire large pie. In fact, all the food I ate in Puglia was exceptional. After much effort, look what I am doing. I can also finally make pizza myself. I'm so glad that I can start eating pizza again. I doubt that I could have overcome my trauma without visiting Italy. I'm still cautious about what I eat during my flight, but at least I can eat freshly made pizza now. I talked a lot in this video, but what I want to convey here is that while past trauma can sometimes heal with time, in my case, it was also helpful to look back on my past and separate the experiences and emotions one by one. With my experience, I first separated the plane from the pizza, and then the feeling of nausea from the pizza. I then realized that it was not the pizza that made me feel nauseous, but my state of excitement at the time, and that the pizza I was given on the plane was not a regular pizza. I can now laugh about the past, and it's a fond memory. This is just my personal experience and story, but I hope you enjoy it. Have you ever had a hard time with food? Please share your story in the comments. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. See you next time.